Hi guys, welcome to our first session for week 1 for DES 246 digital animation. I hope you guys are as excited as I am. We're going to get to play with Animate. I am your instructor, Misty Porch. I've been in the graphic design and printing industry. Hi guys, my hair's a little bit of a different color right now. I got a little bored and got a little creative. So it is a little bit of a different color right now. Anyway, I have been in the printing and graphic design industry for, actually it's more like 10 years now. I've also been involved in web design and animation for animation much longer than web design. Web design for the past 4 years, animation probably more, we're looking at 10, 12 years now. I have a bachelor's degree in graphic design and a master's in information systems, and I also have a bachelor's in computer science. I am currently, or was currently, I've just graduated. I need to update that. I'm getting my degree in computer science. I actually just finished that. So yay there. Definitely I can relate to you guys. So when you're having problem getting your homework done, things like that, reach out to me, guys. I completely understand. I was just a student myself. So don't think I'm not going to understand how those little things can make your homework seem like a huge task. And something little just messes up your entire schedule. So just reach out to me. I'm going to understand. Let me give you the extension so you don't have to worry about those late points. We'll talk more about that in a minute. And my teaching philosophy, I like to bring a lot of what you get in the classroom here. As you see, we have a blackboard. It will be used, probably not as much in this class as I use it in my other classes, but it may come in handy. We may use it a few times. Definitely, I like to practice during our lectures. I like to make sure that I am teaching you guys the tools you need to know to do your assignments and your assessments each week. And the best way for me to evaluate that is to do class practices. So when you're here, we're actually going to share my screen, give you control, and I'm going to give you tasks. And we kind of take turns and do some really fun stuff. And I usually post whatever we created in Animate and the announcements for the rest of your classmates to see. And we'll all get a hand in developing that kind of thing. Best way to contact me is through email at misty.porch@independence.edu. You can also text message me at 817-909-5597. Those are the 2 fastest ways to get in touch with me and get an answer for me. And I am a firm believer, guys, in answering your emails and your text messages immediately. That means as soon as I get them, I'm going to answer them. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm not going to be away from my desk or away from my phone when you text message me, and it may be 15 minutes. Usually it's not any longer than that. Occasionally it is if I'm in a meeting or something and I have a client with me and I can't answer you right then, but I will answer you at the very first opportunity. Normally, it's immediately. So be sure when you send me an email, you're checking your email because most likely I'm going to answer you pretty quickly. You can also call me at that same number, and it may take a little longer for me to be able to call you back. But it is not something important. You'd rather make the phone call than call me. Otherwise, email me, text message me, and you're going to get an immediate response there. Our next lecture is tomorrow at 4 p.m. Mountain Time. As I'm sure you guys noted when you looked at the live lecture page, this week our lectures are in the evening. Starting next week, they will be earlier in the day. Hopefully that makes it easier for some of you guys than it does making an evening lecture. You guys just kind of let me know how you want to play that out, because I'm more than willing to change those lectures around, the times and things like that. So whatever works best for you guys is where I want to be. As you see here, we have a lot to go through today. And we're going to go through the announcements. We're going to do the software check. we are going to take a look at the course descriptions, the objectives, the outline, and we're going to talk about the policies and expectations. And this is where you're going to learn a lot about what I expect from you guys and what you can expect from me. Some of it sounds like, oh my gosh, just hang in there. Let me get to the point where I have to go through the school policies. It's a requirement. We have to go through it. So we're going to go through that, and then we're going to talk about my policies and the ways you can work around some of the school policies, like with late points and things like that. So just hang in there, bear with me until we get to the part where I can tell you my policies. We will talk about the final project overview. One of the good things about this class is you will be working on the final project all mod long. So starting this week, you're going to do one of the steps in order to complete that final project. So it's basically a mod project is what you're doing. We're going to talk about the discussion for week 1 today. I noticed quite a few of you have already done that discussion. Awesome. You guys rock. And our discussion deals with user interface and user experience. So we're going to touch on those a little bit. Of course, we will have an opportunity where I'm just going to stop and let you guys ask any questions you want. But if you have a question while I'm talking, don't hesitate to put it in the chat box so that I can answer it right then. Because if you have that question, it's likely one of your fellow classmates is going to have that exact same question too. And then we're going to talk about storyline creation, because this week you are creating your storyboard. So we are going to talk about that storyline creation, and we are going to talk about successful storyboarding in the 12 principles of animation, and look at an example so that you guys can tell me what's wrong with it. And our announcement, Christy is our learning coach. She just emailed me her schedule right before I logged in for the lecture, so I will post that as soon as the lecture is over. Her schedule will be in the announcements. You guys are in luck. I am going to be in the Student Success Center this mod on Thursdays and Fridays. Thursdays from 8 to 11 p.m. and Fridays from 4 p.m. to 11 p.m. So if you're having trouble, whether it be a creative idea, you're struggling with a software, whatever the case may be, don't hesitate to come in and see me in one of those evenings. That way I can walk you through it. If you can't make my schedule, check out Christy's schedule. She can help you just as easily as I can. She has been my learning coach for this class every single time I've taught it. So she knows exactly what I'm going to be expecting from you guys. So if you can't see me, go in and see her. She can help you. Lynda.com is part of this class. There are some great tutorials to use and to help develop your skills. And the reality is, guys, Animate is a huge application, just like Illustrator, InDesign, Photoshop. There is a lot to learn there. And we have 4 hours a week. It's impossible for me to teach you absolutely everything you need to know about Animate. Not what you need to know about your assignments or assessments, but Animate overall. Watch those tutorials. Your skills will improve so much if you watch those tutorials. Our lectures will focus on the skills you need to absolutely complete your work. I try to throw in as many extra skills as I can, but there is a lot of work in this class. Watch those tutorials because they will help you. And they will help you in the sense of being able to apply what you've learned to another project. And that's the idea of these whole classes. Lynda.com is very, very useful for that sort of thing. So be sure you watch those little tutorials. Most of them are 5 to 15 minutes long. So it's not like you're going to be stuck, anchored to your computer for hours. You can watch one of the tutorials, go do whatever you need to do, come back and watch another one. That sort of thing. So you're not chained to it. Their tutorials are great. They're nice and short and to the point. And then there's a stopping place. So if you have to stop and go pick your kids up from school or go fix lunch or whatever the case may be, you can do that without feeling lost when you sit back down at your computer the next time. Software check. Everybody, please do this check. Inevitably, I end up with students emailing me in week 3 saying they don't have the right software. And by then, it's a little hard for me to get you the right software and get you updated because week 4 is right around the corner and you're already 2 weeks behind. Check your software, guys. All you have to do is open your Creative Cloud. Make sure that you have CC 2015 at least. Most of you, if not all of you, should already have 2017. Some of you may not have been upgraded yet. Sarah, your software expires on the 28th. There is an announcement in our classroom about the required software. It tells you how to get your renewal. So Sarah, be sure you check out that announcement because it gives you instructions on how to renew your software. And make sure in your CC it says Animate CC and not Flash or Edge Animate. It has to be Animate CC and it is a red icon. So if you don't have Adobe, please contact me right away. See that announcement in our classroom. It gives you instructions on upgrading and renewing your software. If that fails or it's not working for you, send me an email immediately so I can get you in touch with Sean so he can help you. This course introduces the basic animation skills. Topics include application and properties of common tools and integration of audio and video in creating animation. Upon completion, students will be proficient in the functionality, interactivity, and usability of basic drawing and animating tools. So our objectives this month. You are going to define digital animation. Define the parameters of an effective animation to reach the target audience. Evaluate and construct a compelling storyline for animated content. Illustrate original concepts for an effective digital animated advertisement. And identify and correctly use basic tools for creating digital animated advertisements. Integrated audio and video into an animation that enhances the UX and UI, and differentiate between user experience and user interface. They are two different things, but they kind of go hand in hand. Create and publish a digital animation. Sounds like a lot, doesn't it? I assure you guys it really isn't that much. A lot of this stuff you actually already know. Perimeters, defining the perimeters of effective animation to reach your target audience. Well, in reality, guys, you guys already know how to do that because you've learned it in your printing classes, in your print design classes on how you reach your target market. You've gone over by now all of you have had your class that dealt with color schemes and harmonies and the primary colors and secondary colors. In color psychology, you guys have all had that class. Well, all of that has to do with reaching your target market, right? When you design something in print, you design it based on your target market, right? If they have a certain color that target market likes or doesn't like, you make sure it's in or out. You choose your font based on your target market. You choose the images in which you put inside your flyers and posters and brochures and magazines based on your target market. If your target market is teenage girls, you're not going to pick photos that have elderly people in them, right? You guys have technically already learned all of these skills. We're just going to take those skills and I'm going to show you how to apply them to animation itself. So don't be intimidated because most of this you already actually know. You're just going to take it and apply it a little differently than what you apply it when you apply it to print design. So in week 1, you are going, it's our intro. You're going to define digital animation and explore the basic tools to create a digital animation. You are going to do your storyboarding. You're going to brainstorm methods to create an effective animated advertisement. You're going to explore storyboarding methods to tell the animated story. And so this week your assignment is going to be the storyboard, and your assessment is going to be a small animation and animate. In week 2, you're going to be developing your story. You're going to be researching UX, user experience, in relation to animation and how it ties into stories for animated advertisements and infographics. Refining the story for the animated advertisement. Basically, you're going to be taking your storyboard, refining it, making all your final graphics, and setting up your timeline. Not necessarily animating anything next week, but you will be setting up your timeline. And you're going to do your final artwork, meaning you're going to do your final graphics. You're going to be drawing some of them in Animate, and the others you may be using Illustrator or Photoshop or whatever your favorite Adobe program is to draw in and to create graphics. In week 3 is when you're going to start animating. The complex animation. Now, in week 2, you have a little assessment too. I believe it's another little animation. Those are nothing major. They're just short animations that let you practice your drawing skills and making motion tweens and things like that. In week 3, it's kind of the same thing. You're going to be setting up your artboard, and you're going to start animating your actual advertisement. And you're going to work on your controlling your timeline and customizing it to do exactly what you want it to do. And then in week 4, if you can stay caught up, guys, when you get to week 4, it's going to be a very, very short week for you, and you're going to get a little break. So in week 4, the only thing you're going to be doing is putting any finishing touches on your advertisement. If there's things I've asked you to change or add, or little things you've decided need to be changed or added, you're going to be doing those, and then you're simply going to be exporting it and publishing it to your Behance site. So you're going to be exporting it as an MP4 video, and you're going to be putting it on Behance and sending me the final zip files. Week 4 will be a very, very short week if you can stay caught up. Getting behind in this class makes it really hard to get caught up, so keep that in mind, guys. If you need help, reach out to me. That's what I'm here for. So make sure if you get behind or you're struggling, reach out to me so that I can help you. This class should not be stressful. This should be fun, guys. And I want to make sure it stays fun. But I'm not going to know you're struggling and not having any fun if you don't let me know you're having trouble. So now let's talk about our class policies and expectations. Communication will make for a better experience and learning environment. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to email me and say, everything you said in the lecture, I don't understand. Hopefully that doesn't happen, but if it does, do not be afraid to reach out and say, I didn't understand the thing you said. And let's go over it. This class can't be fun if you're stressed out and you're not understanding what's going on. I want it to be fun. Animation should be fun. And so I plan to make sure we all have a lot of fun this month, and that we all get very creative and everything is nice and stress-free. So if you're experiencing some stress, reach out to me and let me know what's going on so that we can work it out. And we can get you back to a level where you're actually enjoying the class and not feeling overwhelmed and that sort of thing. Definitely, without a doubt, contact me if you have trouble uploading an assignment. Back it up by emailing it to me, and then you must put in the comments for the submission that you emailed it to me. That is a school policy I cannot get around, guys. If you have to email me your assignment because for some reason Canvas is not allowing you to upload it, you have to put in the comments where you normally submit your assignment that you emailed me your assignment because Canvas wouldn't let you upload it. And you can just submit. You can submit without having an attachment as long as there's something typed in that box. Then I can take what you emailed me and I can actually give you a grade for it. But you must put that comment there. If you cannot meet a deadline, definitely let me know. 20% is a bunch of points when you're late, guys, and we can work it out and we can work around that so that you don't have to get those late points. But that requires that you communicate with me before you miss that deadline, not after. So make sure you reach out to me. If you have any type of question on an assignment after watching the live session and reading the instructions, be sure you ask so that I can clarify it for you. Like I said, we aim for this to be stress-free and fun, guys. Fun. Everybody likes fun, right? Due dates. Yes, we all like fun. Due dates are just like any of your other classes. All of your assignments and assessments are due Saturday at 11:59 p.m. Mountain Time. Your discussions, your initial posts are due on Wednesday at 11:59 p.m. Mountain Time, the week it is assigned. And then you have to have 2 replies on separate days by Saturday at 11:59 p.m. Mountain Time. Late work. I accept late work on assignments and assessments for week 1 past the deadlines for week 1 through 3. A 20% deduction will be made for work submitted past the deadline unless you've gotten an extension. Discussions will be closed for comments on their deadline. No post or replies can be made after the discussion is closed. Everybody catch that. I do lock the discussion on Sunday when I sit down to grade work for the prior week. I lock the discussions. Don't miss those discussions, guys. If nothing else, make sure you get your initial post in. It's worth the most points. Don't take a 0, guys. That 0 has a huge impact on your grade. At least do your initial post. And then if something happens and you don't get the 2 replies in, well, at least you got the major points there. Don't take the 0. Make sure you put it on your calendar, and Monday nights or Sunday evenings, do that initial post for the next week. The discussion posts don't have to be, they're not huge. It's not a paper. You can usually get a discussion knocked out within 30 minutes. So put it on your calendar to do on Sunday nights for the next week, or Monday nights, or whatever night, as long as it's before Wednesday. Mark it down and make sure you do it every week, because those 0s on discussions have a big impact on your final grade. Resubmissions. I encourage reworking an assignment to bring it up to portfolio quality, or an assignment that is a step to create a portfolio quality project. So if when you get your grade back for the week, you don't like it, you're disappointed, guys, I'm going to tell you exactly what's wrong with it. I'm not just going to say this is what's wrong. 9 times out of 10, I'm going to tell you exactly how to fix it. So just open it, fix it, resubmit it, not change your grade. Probably won't take you 15 minutes because I am going to give you actual instructions on how to fix it. Or I will have, sometimes I do video recordings. If it's a video, I'm going to actually have your file open and I'm going to fix it, walking you step by step through how to fix it. It's not going to take you very long to improve your grade. That does not mean I grade harshly. I do not. Any of you that have had me for web design in the past know I do not grade harshly. But occasionally you're disappointed, didn't understand it, or you were just stressed and finally turned it in because you couldn't take anymore. And so you know your grade's not going to be that good, and it's not great, but you know you'd had enough. I get it. I do. I was a student, remember? Not long ago. So I'm going to tell you how to fix it. I'm going to give you instructions on how to fix it. So you can absolutely resubmit those assignments and assessments and things like that to improve your grade. I will absolutely take all of that. Now then, as far as late work and resubmissions go, in reality, guys, I will take all of that stuff up till the end of week 4, your last deadline for the mod. I will take all of that. I do ask that you not wait to the last minute, because it just makes it harder for me to grade everything, and it takes it longer for you guys to get your final grades back. But I will take it, because sometimes things just happen in its life, and we all have those times. So don't be afraid that, oh no, it's week 1 and I need to resubmit that, but it's already week 4. Resubmit it, because my theory here, guys, is if you're willing to do the work, I'm willing to grade it. So don't be afraid of turning in late work or resubmissions, because if you're willing to do it, then I'm willing to grade it. I do use a rubrics for all discussions, assignments, and assessments. Reviewing these will give you a very good indication of what is expected when turning in your work. Reviewing them when you see your final grade will also give you instructions on how to fix whatever I took off points for. In your comments for me, and we will look at the classroom in just a second, but your comments to me are usually my comments in the little comments box next to your final grade are usually pretty general. You did a fantastic job, or if there is something that just really made me go, wow, I will point that out there. Otherwise, all of my comments are going to be in the rubrics. So if I counted points off on something, there's going to be directions in the comments in the rubrics on how to fix what's wrong. So we're going to go over and make sure everybody knows how to open up that rubrics when they're looking at their final grade, so that you guys know exactly where to look for my comments and instructions on how to fix things. If you aren't sure about something, ask me. File naming is the easiest point you can get. Make sure you name your zip files correctly, guys. It's pretty much every single week. It's going to be GS24 week 1 assignment, week 1 assessment, whatever. Underscore your first name, your last name. That's the naming convention. It's been the same in pretty much all of your classes. That's what I'm looking for. Grading for week 1 through 3 will be done by the following Wednesday. The majority of the time, you guys will have your grades in by Sunday. You will have them Sunday. Sometimes, depending on the assignment, if there's a lot of you, the assignment's extensive, it may take me a little while to grade it. So some of you are going to get it back on Sunday. The rest of you get it back on Monday. But you will have it. And in week 4, everything has to be turned in by noon on Monday. Week 4, you can be guaranteed you will have it at some point on Sunday. I have all my grades done for the final grade on Sunday. And normally, unless something has happened in my life, you will have all your grades back on Sunday. So you will know how you did the prior week by Sunday. Occasionally, we have assignments that are just really lengthy, that take me a while to download, and there are a lot of you this mod. So if it's taking me forever to download stuff, I may not make it through everyone's. Majority of you would have them back on Sunday. The rest of you would get them back Monday morning. But I do shoot for making sure you guys have your grades back on Sunday. That way you start the week knowing exactly where you're at. If you just want to submit something for feedback, you just want me to look it over, make sure you've gotten everything, that sort of thing, you can email it to me, or you can simply stop in the SFC and have me look at it. I'll be more than happy to look it over and say, oh, no, you forgot this, or yep, that's perfect, turn it in. So if you ever are unsure, stop by and see me, or simply zip it and email it to me and just put a message there asking me to look at it. I will look at it and tell you whether or not it's good to go or you need to work on something. Extensions to turn in late work without penalty. if there are documentable extenuating circumstances, medical, military, or death of an immediate family member, these will be examined on a case-by-case basis. You need to contact me at least 12 hours before the deadline requesting an extension and submit what you have done. No extensions after the end of the mod. Now then, now that we've said that, whoops. Those of you that need an extension because life has happened, you've been sick, your child's been sick, you had to work, whatever the case may be, make sure you email me before the deadline. I cannot give you an extension after the deadline. You have to let me know before the deadline. That's one requirement. Letting me know before the deadline. The next requirement is in that email, you must tell me when you're going to have your work submitted. I want a day, guys, when you're going to have it submitted, and I will give you an extension. That way, you don't get 20% taken off your grade. So you have to email me before the deadline, and you have to tell me when you're going to have the work to me, a specific day. Not I'll have it in a few days or I'll have it in early next. I want a specific day of when you're going to have that work to me. You guys are all soon to be professional graphic designers. And when you can't meet a deadline for client, the worst thing you can do is say, I'll have it to you in a few days. That's not going to fly very well with them. Now, if you say, I'll have it to you by Monday at 2 p.m., they're going to may not be happy, you're going to be late, but it's going to be more acceptable than saying, I'm going to have it to you in a few days. So be very specific with me, guys. This is great practice for you. Any questions on the policies and expectations? Overall, guys, I'm a pretty laid-back instructor. As long as you communicate with me and let me know what's going on, I am absolutely more than happy to work with you and go out of my way to get you the help you need. But you have to communicate with me, and you can't wait till the last minute. Okay, so let's talk about our fun project. By the end of this mod, you will have conceptualized. What time did you say I was in the SSC? I am there on Thursdays from 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. Mountain Time, and on Fridays from 4 p.m. to 11 p.m. Mountain Time. So both evenings, Thursday and Friday. Okay, guys. We're going to have some fun with this final project. You guys are going to get to be all kinds of creative. By the end of this mod, you will have conceptualized, created, produced, and published an animated advertisement to be presented in your professional portfolio. The project? Choose a company or ask me to assign you one. That would be a candidate for an animated advertisement that is seen on their website. This is a self-promotional ad for themselves, not an ad banner or on another website. This is for their website. It can be a new product release, a service that they want to promote, or something that is fun and entertaining that will capture their target audience and promote sales. Use an actual company instead of a made-up one. This will make it a lot easier to do your research and actually find a problem that needs to be solved or a new service that needs to be advertised. And you will be able to immediately know who the target market is you're designing for. Business categories, just some ideas. You do not have to pick anything out of this list. You're absolutely free to choose your own company, but these are some ideas that usually make great animated advertisements. Florist and nursery companies, doctors or dentists, food businesses like bakeries, coffee shops, or cafes, animal adoption, travel or outdoor activity companies. Now, I'm going to say this, guys, because every single time I teach this class, half the class wants to do animal adoption because for some reason they all think it's going to be the simplest one. I cannot stress to you enough how it is not going to be the simplest one because it's animal adoption. So think about these animals. Tails wagging, dogs walking. Get the idea? You have to animate all that stuff. But inevitably, it seems to be the one everyone wants to go to. And I think mostly because it's easy to come up with a creative idea. But I cannot stress to you enough, animal adoption is never an easy ad to animate. It does take work. Now, I have seen some awesome animal adoption ads come from students, but it does take work and it takes some commitment. So just be sure, guys, when you're picking a company, that you're kind of seeing that animation in your head and you're actually pinpointing all the things that might be a little complicated. Make sure you don't overwhelm yourself because once you pick something, you're stuck with it. So anything from any of those categories or any other categories you want to do is perfectly fine. I've seen a lot of, I had a student a couple months ago when I taught this class, he did one on a collision place. I can't remember what the name of it was. He did an awesome, cute, really simple ad, but it was very effective. And that's the idea. The idea isn't that your ads have to be complicated, because as you will learn throughout this mod, usually simpler is better. This is not 3D animation like Disney does. This is 2D animation. So the simpler, the better, and usually it's way more effective. Let's talk about your discussion this week. Your discussion says digital animation has become so prevalent in online and mobile content that graphic designers are being asked more and more to conceptualize these mini movies to advertise a product or service for their clients. These are not video commercials. They are animated graphics that are engaging, fun to watch and interact with, and capture the audience's attention. How many of you have seen an animated infographic? It's not like a cartoon movie. It's an actual animated infographic where the letters and words are animated, lines are drawn, or charts are colored. It's animated in that aspect. How many of you guys have seen something like that? Too many to remember because they are everywhere. Yes, Google does it all the time. We have all seen them. That is one of the biggest markets in graphic design right now, is animated infographics. Those animated infographics are great advertisements, right? We all watch them because whatever's happening is usually pretty cool. The letters are banging into each other or jumping around and lines are just appearing on the screen and things like that. And so we all watch them and they're about 30 seconds long. So it's not like we're watching them forever because they're usually pretty quick, but they get the point across. So it's not, we're not making a cartoon. Not necessarily making an infographic either, unless that's the direction you decide to go, but you're kind of doing it in between here. If you want to make the animated infographic as your advertisement, that's absolutely okay. Right now, that is one of the biggest markets in graphic design, is making those animated infographics. So if you want to go that way, absolutely. Yes, yes, Jane, like a spa ad, absolutely. So for the first part of the discussion, you're going to research what the role is for graphic designers in digital animation and what types of things need to be considered to create a good user experience and best practices for creating a good user interface. When creating these animations, write a summary of your findings to be sure to cite your sources. You can use ProQuest for your resources, or you are free to find articles on the web. For the second part of this discussion, find one example of what you think is effective digital animated advertising. In your own words, tell us why. Refer to the research you did in the first part to help express your reasons. Be sure to include a link to your example. Those animated ads are all over the web. We see them just about every website we go to, there's an animated ad somewhere on that website. We see them all the time. Find one you really like and use it as your example. And just basically tell me what you really like about it, and go back to your user interface principles and determine why it is you're liking it. What makes it so good? That how did they use a principle so well that it made you like it, kind of thing. Get the idea there, guys? Basically, you're going to tell me what the principles are for user interface, and then you're going to take those principles and you're going to find an animated ad that you really like, and take those principles and say, this was done excellent, this was done good, or this could have been done a little better. Things like that. So make the discussion fun. Find something you like, that you like watching, that you've seen on the web that caught your attention. Go back and find it. Use that as your example. And then tell me about the user interface principles that were used in that ad. Jane, a PS ad? A PSA ad, a public service ad. Yes, you can do a public service ad if you would like to. That's absolutely acceptable. And just make sure it's targeted at one specific area, and there's not going to be any question to add to exactly what you are doing your public service about. Okay, guys, let's talk a little bit about user interface, or UI. UI design produces a product's skin, a product's visual graphic presentation. It senses a product's reactivity and interactivity in response to a user's input or different display environments. And the makeup, a product's guides, hints, and directives that visually lead users through their experience. That's pretty much the simplest explanation that you can get for UI. We're talking user interface is it's the look and feel, the presentation, the interactivity of the product. User interface in reality, guys, is kind of multifaceted. It's challenging. It's responsible for the transference of a product's development, research, content, and layout into an attractive, guiding, and responsive experience for the user. So the UI role is very, very crucial to any digital interface, whether it be web design or animation. And for a customer, it's the key element in trusting a brand. So the simplest way to put it is UI is the look and feel. That is the bare bones of UI. Now, the way it looks, the way it feels. Does that mean the way it looks to you or the way it feels to you? It's not. It's not the way it looks to you or the way it feels to you, because it's all about how your audience feels, how your audience looks at it. Correct, Jane. Thank you. That's it. It's all about how your audience perceives that animation or that website. UI applies to both, anything online that's digital. Both website, both animation, it applies to both. And the UI is all about how the end user, your audience, what it makes them think, how it makes them feel, what it makes them do. Because essentially, when you do an animated advertisement, 9 times out of 10, that animation, that ad, is to get the customer to do something, right? Whether it's buy a product, click on a link for more information, it's to get their customer to do something. So if customers are watching this and not doing anything, there's something seriously wrong with that ad, right? It's not working. That's what user interface is all about. It's about getting your customers to think a certain way, to feel a certain way, to act a certain way. So let's talk about that look and feel a little bit. How do you determine look and feel? How do you decide what you want your audience to think, what you want them to feel? And how do you incorporate all of that into the look of whatever you're developing? Well, first of all, you're going to need to do some customer analysis. You need to determine what the problem is, and then what the solution is to that problem. And everybody thinks, okay, wait a minute, a problem? Well, problems are simple things. You need to run a sale. A store runs a sale on shoes or fishing poles. Well, when a store runs a sale, and you stop and really think about this, when a store runs a sale, what do you think that means? Does it mean things like they're overstocked? They have too many of those things in their warehouse? 9 times out of 10, that's exactly what it means. They're overstocked on something. And so they run a sale on it. Other than that, it means that whatever vendor they buy that product from is overstocked, and therefore they've given a sale to their customers to allow them to buy the product at a much cheaper price. So the store puts on a sale because now they've bought all this inventory at a much cheaper price, and now they want to make a profit. So either way you look at it, the problem is the store needs to sell that specific item, right? They need to sell it. So there's your problem. The problem is they need to sell it. What's the solution? It's kind of inclusive, isn't it? The problem is they need to sell it because they're overstocked or whatever reason. The solution is to sell it, right? To get the customers to buy it. There's your solution. So you've got a problem, you've got a solution. Now you have to figure out how to make that happen. Now you have to figure out how to make that solution happen. How do you get your customers to do what needs to be done to solve the problem? Are you guys following me? So you start with design research. How did you address that problem? How do you address that solution using visual graphics? First, you're just going to do a flat still design. How do you address that solution with just plain visual graphics? No animation, just still graphics. Once you've got that down, you say, okay, we got shoes. We need to sell a lot of them. Got fishing poles, need to sell a lot of them. Well, one of your graphics, at least one of your graphics is going to be what? If you're selling shoes, one of your graphics is going to be shoes. If you're selling fishing poles, that graphic is going to be fishing poles. So you already instantly know at least one of your graphics. So then you have to take those items and say, okay, how can I attract my target market to actually look at these shoes? Well, usually that comes into putting it into an environment that gets their attention, right? And by environment, I mean a background, right? Something on the artboard, on the flyer, poster, or animation It draws the attention, right? And that's the environment in which your graphic is in. That's what gets them to look at the actual product. Same thing with animation. Gonna have to take that graphic and you're gonna have to put it into a background that attracts your target audience. So for shoes, let's say it's women's shoes. What kind of environment would attract a woman to look at those shoes? Now you're thinking in a 2D animation here. So what kind of environment could you do? Let's say you are selling high heels. You're running a sale on high heels. What kind of environment might you put those shoes in to draw some attention? Nightclub. Absolutely. Dance hall. Yes. Now you guys are catching on. So what about a fishing pole? What kind of environment do you put a fishing pole in order to get fishermen to look at it? A lake. Absolutely. Boat, water. There you go. Now you guys are getting it. You're right on track. You guys have got this. You're going to rock this night. So now you've done that. You've got your background. You've got your environment. You've got your main graphic. You've done your design research. You got a plan. Branding and graphic development. Emphasis on your company and solution. So now you've got to add some emphasis. Now, as far as emphasis on your company, this is a self-promotion, right? It's something that's going to be on their website. So it's not necessary to totally emphasize the company. You want to emphasize the brand of that product because most likely it's not the company, right? You have all kinds of shoe stores, but they sell all kinds of brands of shoes. You have all kinds of outdoor stores that sell all kinds of brands of fishing poles and camping equipment and things like that. So it's not that you are emphasizing the company that's selling the product. You are emphasizing the brand of the product itself. Make sense? Because 9 times out of 10, those are going to be two different things. We have an outdoor store here that's called Swift, but they carry all kinds of brands like Northern Exposure, and now my mind is blank. They carry all sorts of brands. Yes, like Zebco fishing poles and Bass Pro Shops. Exactly, Mossy Oaks. Yes, thank you, Melissa. And they sell all of that. So if I'm doing an ad for them, it's not necessary on their website. It's not necessary that I emphasize Swift, the company that's selling it. That's not really important. I need to emphasize the actual brand of the product. That's going to draw customers' attention, right? So that's what that means there. When I say emphasize your company, really it's more emphasize your brand. That brand is a company. Yes, that's why it says, that's why I'm saying company, because technically it is a company. But it's not necessarily the company you are doing the advertisement for. Since it's self-promotional, it's not important to advertise the company that's selling it. It's important to advertise the company whose product it is, because that usually draws attention, right? When Bass Pro does all of their ads, we see their commercials, we see the stuff on their websites. I get stuff in the mail from Bass Pro, and they're not really promoting themselves, they're promoting their products, right? And usually that's brand name stuff. And they do it by the brand name. They emphasize those things. So now you've got, okay, you're going to plan your emphasis. That means you're going to need that logo branding somewhere, right? You're going to need to make that brand name stand out somehow. Yes, Redhead is a Bass Pro product, but do they necessarily advertise that it's a Bass Pro product, or are they really putting the emphasis on Redhead? Think about the ads you've seen. Yeah, they put the emphasis on redhead, not that it's made by Bass Pro. That's usually mentioned somewhere, but it's not emphasized. The emphasis should be on the product, the brand of that product. Make sense? So now you've got a plan. You need to make sure you emphasize that brand, that company brand. And you need to figure out a solution. How are you going to do that? You could do that several different ways, right? We all know about contrast by now, right? You know all about contrast. You know all about white space. Those same things are used in digital animation, guys. Contrast, white space. Now you get to add all the things like making things blink, glow, slide on, slide off, jump up and down to help add that emphasis. A great example, just as an example of the fishing pole that we were just talking about. Your background, your environment, having a fisherman reeling in his rod and the fish itself look like a 50% off Zebco. That's emphasis, right? And it's going to catch somebody's attention, right? Because they're going to think, whoa, wait a minute, that wasn't a fish. And they're going to look at it. It's what we do, and we do it subconsciously because it's something that looks like something else. Does that make sense? We're expecting one thing to happen. Our brains are expecting one thing to happen. They see a little animation of a guy sitting in a boat reeling, or sitting on the beach, wherever it may be, reeling in his fishing pole. We expect a fish at the end of that hook, right? So when he pulls something else out of the water, we pay attention to that, right? Because we're kind of doing a double take. Excellent example. Excellent idea. So now you've planned your emphasis. You've thought about your solutions in different ways. You can make sure that you've added that emphasis there. So now you've got a rough idea. At this point, you've kind of got a rough idea. It's not a really tight idea yet. It's just kind of rough. Your creativity's going. You've kind of got a little bit of a plan going on here. So then you're going to sit down and start really working on your storyline. Because now you've got to take the viewers from point A to point B. Point A is identifying the problem, even to the user. You need to somehow identify that problem. Does that mean you need to tell the user the store is overstocked? Not every time. Sometimes that works great, depending on who your target market is. But you need to take them for the problem. We have these shoes. We have these fishing poles. And we need you to do what in point B? We need to tell you we have them. And in point B, we need you to, there it is, Melissa, buy them. We need you to buy them. So you have to figure out how to lead your users from point A to point B and keep them interested in watching the entire time. How many of you have seen an animated ad that you absolutely didn't like and you spared it maybe 3 seconds? And then you went on looking at something else because this just didn't do it for you. Yeah, we all have. Because here's the reality, guys. You've got 3 seconds. That's not very long, but you've got 3 seconds to hold your user's attention. If you can get them for 3 seconds, you've got them for the full 30 seconds. If you can't hold them for 3 seconds, something is very much wrong with the advertisement. So you've got 3 seconds. The first 3 seconds of your animation are the most important 3 seconds of the entire thing. So how do you make sure you get somebody's attention and you hold it for 3 seconds? What are things that just, no pressure? Think about some of the ads you've seen recently. What's the thing that drew you? What made you watch it? Was there something that happened in the first 3 seconds? Was it because they did a certain thing in those 3 seconds? Because usually it's one of two things. Something really interesting and cool happened in the first 3 seconds. Whether it was the screen exploding, turning into something else, or a bunch of activity all at first that made you watch it. And so then you're stuck watching it for 30 seconds because that was cool and you're still trying to figure it out. Or they put the emphasis on the brand at the very, very beginning, and it's a brand you liked, so you're watching. That's the reality. That's what gets us. How many times have you watched an ad that something happened at the beginning, you didn't quite understand it, so you're still watching it trying to figure out what happened? I do it all the time. And 9 times out of 10, it's not because the designer messed up and screwed something up. They did it on purpose because it got your attention and it made you watch it. That is the whole goal of an advertisement. It's to get the user to watch it. Now you're starting to think about all the ads you've watched, huh? You guys will be doing it from now on. Every time you see a little animated advertisement, you're all going to start and think, now why am I watching this? It happens. But they did stuff like that is done all the time. They do something really flashy at first. It's kind of confusing and you're not sure what just happened. So you're watching it because, well, you think that might have been kind of cool. And you're still trying to figure out what's going on. And so you watch the entire thing. And then, if you're like me, you might even rewatch it. So those are the kind of things to keep in mind. That does not mean you should start your animation out completely confusing. It needs to be that kind of confusing where the user's pretty sure something really cool just happened, but it was really fast, so they're not quite sure, so they're watching. Does that make sense? You guys think about ads like that. You've seen Apple does it all the time. Apple's really good at doing something really flashy at first. It just kind of happens, and then you're watching it. Yes, the OK Go ads. Absolutely, Dwayne. Okay, so we have gotten our story. We're down to our guideline. Everything's looking really good. Elizabeth, all you have to do is Google the OK Go ads. They have quite a few out there to look at. They're pretty entertaining. Most of them are. So now we talked about look and feel. Let's talk about responsiveness and interactivity. When you guys think, let's think about all the videos you've seen, all the advertisements you've seen, little animated ads, infographics, things like that. Are they interactive? What is interactivity? Interactivity is pretty much just what it sounds like in the broad definition. You can interact with it somehow. Doesn't necessarily mean that you can always move things around on the screen. Sometimes you can. But interactivity would be simply having a stop, play, or mute button. How many of the ads do you watch have those? A few. You're right. It seems to be quite a trend lately for them to be missing them. I keep coming across ads that I can't mute. Drives me bananas. They all have this annoying music on them that I don't want to listen to. The ad's pretty cool, but they got this weird music that I'm just really not interested in, and I want to mute it. Or I'm watching it on my phone and I'm in the middle of a restaurant or in a meeting and it's quite boring, and so I've gone to my cell phone and I can't very well watch this stuff because there's music blaring out of my phone. Nothing like being in a crowded airport and going to a website on your phone and suddenly they've got this animated ad on there and it just won't shut up. And it's not like you want everybody in the airport to know what you're watching. It happens, and it's happened to all of us. Lately, there has been a very, very big glitch in user experience, user interface, because suddenly those mute buttons have been missing. But a lot of what you see does have a mute or play. Sometimes you have to wiggle your mouse around or move your finger around the screen trying to find it to get it to pop out because it's not visible. It's one of those little disappearing buttons that unless you're on it or roll over it, you can't see it in order to find it. But lately, I have come across more and more that just do not have those. They're just missing. So, responsiveness. How many of you guys have had your web design class already? Melissa hasn't had hers yet. No? Okay, so a few of you haven't had your web design classes yet. So when I'm talking responsive, I'm talking about how many of you have noticed when you look at a website on your desktop and you pull up the exact same website on your cell phone, it looks slightly different. You don't have to use your fingers to zoom in to read text. That is responsiveness. That means it will go from one screen size to the other and look good. There are still entirely too many websites where you have to use your fingers to zoom in on your cell phone just so you can read what's on the screen. That is not a responsive website. Or how many of you have watched a YouTube video on your cell phone? Yes? Okay, well, you know, when you've got your website, your cell phone in portrait, it's just a little square, right? It's kind of a small window there. But if you turn your cell phone so it's landscape, that video suddenly gets bigger, right? And it'll fill up your screen. That is responsiveness. That's what that's talking about. You do all of that when you're doing the UI prototyping. Just like you do with a website, it's kind of like making a wireframe. You need to decide it needs to be this size when the screen size is this size and this size when it's that size. Now, thanks to Animate and HTML5 canvas files in Animate and using an iframe, when you put that into a website, it will draw Bootstrap and automatically become responsive for you. So you're really not going to have to do anything with responsiveness this month. So relax. There's going to be no coding there. You guys are good. Interactivity in animation. Well, you get a lot of interactivity depending on the advertisement itself. And how many of you play with the little Google ads on the Google search pages? Any of you guys played with them? Dwayne does. Yeah, I play with them too. They're not always interactive, are they? Not always, but sometimes they are because sometimes they put little games up there. They just had a game. It was a little tennis game. And they had one for What was the other one? It wasn't baseball. It was the English version of baseball. You know, they use the square bat. What's that called? Cricket. Yes, they had a little cricket game up there. And you can actually play it. It was just a little bitty, just like the Google ads. So those of you that have no clue what I'm talking about, go to google.com. I don't know what they have up there right now, but you can actually Google the Google animations and you can pull up all the past ones and you get an idea of what I'm talking about. They do things like that all the time. Last Halloween is coming up. Last Halloween, they had a really cool Halloween game up there. And they do those sorts of things every once in a while. Christmas last year, I think it was last year, at Christmas, you could decorate a Christmas tree. You could pick your ornaments and your tinsel and all that kind of good stuff. And it was kind of like a drag and drop thing. That is really interactive animation. That really makes the user interact with whatever you're doing. We won't be doing anything this mod because that's a lot of advanced skills. And if those of you on the bachelor's degree program will be doing that in DS360 though. But that's real interactivity. That's where you're truly getting a user involved. You guys are selling a product or a service or something like that. So you don't need that type of interactivity. Could you use something like that? Absolutely. But you don't have to have anything like that this mod. So I'm just kind of going over the things you can do and giving you some inspiration. Google Ads are the best kinds of inspiration because you can see how simple things can be done, yet they're effective. And you're going to do that prototyping, deciding interactivity, deciding sizes, things like that in your storyboards. You have to come up with an initial size. And I don't mean necessarily the screen size needs to be 500 by 400. I mean an initial shape. Maybe that's a better word for it. Is your ad going to be a perfect square? We've all seen those little perfect square ads, right? They're perfect square right there, usually on the right-hand side of the screen. And then we've seen the ones that are banners across the home pages. They're wider, but not quite as tall as they are wide. They're just little bitty strips. And then we've seen the more rectangle shape. They're smaller, rectangle, and they're usually on the right side of the screen too. You kind of have to decide the shape of your ad. You will come up with the actual dimensions next week. This week, you just kind of have to come up with the initial shape. Is it going to be long and narrow? Is it going to be perfectly square? Or is it going to be more of a rectangle type shape? So then you're going to use the interactivity. I can tell you the interactivity you guys will be adding at some point. I think it's week 3. It might be part of week 4. You will be adding buttons, a play and pause button. You will be adding those. It's pretty simple, but just remember in your design, you need to make sure you leave some sort of open space in the right, left, top, or bottom corner so that when you get to that point, you have a place to add those buttons. And they're not covering up anything important. Your interactivity, your animation can even be interactive, not to the point where it means your user can click on the screen and drag something somewhere or make something do something, but your animation can be interactive because what happens when you get to it, when you watch an advertisement and you get to the very end, if you click on that ad, what usually happens? I tend to accidentally click on ads all the time, and I end up on that ad's website, right? It takes you to their link. Absolutely. That's interactivity. Because the user has interacted with that animation, right? They clicked on it, and so it took them somewhere. That's considered interactivity. With your animation, you want to tell a story. You want to make your motions clean. You want to incorporate the principles of animation, which we are going to get to. They're pretty simple, and a lot of them you already know because you actually use them in print design. You're going to want to make sure to adjust all screen sizes like we were just talking about, the responsiveness. Your HTML5 canvas makes it so easy. And there's all kinds of multiple outputs that you can do, whether it's an MP4, an animated GIF, all of those nice. We see them all the time all over social media. You know, the little cat. You see the little cat animations. They're animated GIFs is all they are. We see them everywhere. And the little memes, you know, where they make a person's face get all funny and it kind of changes back and forth, or they take something somebody did and they repeat, it's on like repeat. And it's just one little simple action, but it's on repeat. And usually it's kind of humorous, kind of funny, that sort of thing. Those are nothing more than animated GIFs. You can export animated GIFs in Animate, so that means you can make things like that pretty easily. And export them as GIFs and throw them on your Facebook page. So the next time mom or dad or friend or brother or sister or child has a birthday or a special event, you can do a little animated gift, and you can even use text and make something splashy and animated and post it on their Facebook page. It's just little things you can do that make people go, oh, wow, that's cool. How'd you do that? Getting people interested in what you're doing now will make you even more popular as a graphic designer when you actually get there and you're ready for the real world. So keep things like that in mind, guys. So let's see, what else? Responsive and interactivity. Have I missed anything? We've talked about the responsiveness. We've talked about ideas for interactivity. I think we've pretty much got a really good overview there. Interactivity can be a lot of things, like I was saying, from stop, play, pause to the point they click on the ad and it takes them to their website. Or it can be extensive, like being able to drag and drop or control things. And there was an animation that I watched on, it was my son showing me something on a car site. It was like car parts, automotive, something or another. I can't even remember. He's all the time showing me stuff saying, ooh, I want that. He was showing me, so there was this little animation there, and it was like a race car. Yeah, it was a little animated race car, and it was driving around this track, and there was like a few tracks. But in order to get the car to go to another track, you had to click on the track in the right place. When the car got there, you clicked right before the car got there, and it would swerve off and go to this new track. I figured that out on accident because I'm really bad about clicking on this stuff. Anyway, I had figured that out on accident because I wasn't even actually paying attention to the ad. I was looking at whatever he was trying to show me, and accidentally moved my mouse and clicked on it and saw the race car jump over there. And of course, then it had my attention and I had to play with it. And he was like, Mom, that sort of thing. So I do that stuff all the time. There's all kinds of interactivity. So just because it's not major interactivity doesn't mean that the animation isn't interactive. If you can click on it and it does something, whether that be play, stop, or go to their website, it's interactive. So when we get to that point in the next couple of weeks, when your directions say make your animation interactive, don't freak out. We've just gone over some very simple ways to make your animation interactive. Those of you that want to go to a step beyond that and you want to add some real intimate interactivity, like the user being able to click and drag or make the car go forward and then make it go reverse or what have you, you want to do stuff like that, just reach out to me and let me know. I will find a time to meet with you and we will go over some of that advanced stuff if you want to do that. Just keep in mind That is advanced stuff. You will get there if you're on the bachelor's degree because that gets introduced in DS360. But if you want to go there now and you're interested in that, as long as you're willing to put in the work to get there, I'm absolutely more than willing to teach it to you. So now let's talk about strategy and content. Undeniably, you've got to have a strategy, right? In order to get someone from point A to point B, there has to be some sort of strategy. I can't talk. Strategy. There's always a game plan, right? When you're deciding to go on vacation every year with your family or what have you, there's always a game plan. That's strategy, right? You have to decide who's packing what, who's driving when, how you're getting there, what you're going to do, all that kind of stuff. There's a game plan. So you're doing the same thing with your animation. You've kind of already gotten there. You've done your graphics, you've picked them, you've got this creative idea, you've started working on your storyline. So now you've got it all. You've got your plan, you've got your story, you know what you want to do your animation about. So now you put the final touches on it. You really, truly create that strategy. Fine tune that storyline. Make sure it goes from point A to point B, and it doesn't go from A to C and then to B, because that's going to confuse your users. We've all seen things like that, right? We've all read stuff that goes from point A to point C and then going back to point B, and we're going, what? That didn't make sense. And we have to read it 2 or 3 times to figure out exactly what we're supposed to be doing, and if it would have just gone A, B, C, we'd have been there a long time ago, right? Same thing goes with your animation. We've all watched animations that way too, that are just absolutely confusing, and you're left going, huh? Or you're thinking the animation end in the middle and all this other stuff. It just really shouldn't have been there. And it's because they went from A to C to B instead of going A, B, C. Make sense? So how do you come up with those strategies and things like that? Well, you're definitely going to want to know what your competitors are doing. What's one of Bass Pro's competitors? Who competes with Bass Pro? Well, here in Texas, I could easily say Academy Outdoor competes with Bass Pro. Now, our little Swift outdoor shop, they really aren't competitors of Bass Pro. Bass Pro is way too large. But Academy or Dick's Sporting Goods, they do a little bit of competition with Bass Pro. Well, it'd be a good idea to research them, right? See what they're doing on their websites as far as animations go, or simple Google animated ads by Dick's Sporting Goods or Academy Outdoor or whomever the competitor is for your company. And look at the animated ads. See what they're doing. You kind of want to do a little bit of an assessment on them. What they do it over? Do they have a animated ad for the same type of product you're doing your animation over? If they do, then make sure you make some notes about that animated ad. What they do first? What was their storyline? How did they lead the customers? Did they have a lot of music? Did they have a lot of text? That sort of thing. Note those things that you visually see. That's going to have a lot to do with your user interface. And then find the things that aren't done very good in those ads, because you want to make sure that your ads are very strong in those weak areas, right? It's going to make your ad better. That's the way it works. And then you've got your customer analysis, of course. You've already identified your target market, right? You already got that. Now you're really kind of fine tune it. You're going to determine their needs as far as that problem goes. Well, if your target audience is fishermen because you're doing fishing poles, Well, their needs are what? They need poles, they need hooks, they need bait, but most importantly, they need what? They need fish, right? You can't fish without fish. Does that mean you're selling them fish? No. But it probably means wherever your environment is should probably look really healthy for fish, right? It should look like that prime fishing spot. It needs to be depicted that way. It needs to make the audience feel that way. You can cause audience to feel things through color. You guys know that, right? You've all taken your color psychology course, or at least talked about it in probably more than one class at this point. You can do that with color. You can do that with subtle hints from text. You could, in animation, you wanted to make sure the user realized there was lots of fish in that lake. What could you do? How about some bubbles or some jumping fish? That would work, right? All you got to kind of do is give the indication that there's fish there in order to make them understand that's prime fishing spot, right? How many of you in here are fishermen? How many of you fish? Or have husbands or brothers or friends that fish? Most of us know somebody that fishes, right? My father is an avid fisherman. I would much rather go with him fishing and open a book, but he is the fisherman. And if one of his buddies come along and say, hey, I heard about this fishing spot. They said it's got really good fish. They caught a ton. Where are they going the next time they fish? They're going to that place, right? Or one of my dad's friends said, I got this new pole. And then they're on the talk about poles. And the next thing I know, my father has the exact same new pole because somebody told him it was a fantastic pole. Those are the kind of things you have to relay in your advertisement. And you do that with your animation. Prime fishing spot with a nice pole. Well, you kind of want to lead the viewer to think great fishing spot, but great pole. Right? The emphasis needs to be on that pole because then they're going to want it because they got a lot of fish there. Yeah, it's just an animation, guys, but you would not believe how our subconscious actually works. And if you really stop and think about your buying habits and really analyze yourself, you will realize just how much your subconscious takes from little ads like that. And you end up buying it because, yeah, the rational part of your brain isn't thinking, I get that pole, I'm going to catch all kinds of fish. But there is a very big portion of your subconscious that is thinking like that. And so you buy the pole, not even aware the reason you're actually thinking it is because of that ad. Because if we actually realize that every time we purchase something, most of us wouldn't buy a whole lot. So those are the kind of things you get to play with in your animation. And those things can be done very subtly, very easily. Yes, like an enormous fish. Having reeling in an enormous fish, well, that puts the idea that, hey, that pole is strong and he caught an awesome fish, right? Yeah, their conscious brain may not be thinking that, but those are the ideas you put into the subconscious brain. And those are the things that really push us to buy things. Now all of you are going to start analyzing your buying habits every time you try to buy something, aren't you? Trust me, I do it all the time. Sometimes I buy it anyway, but you know, it happens. So you're going to have to think about that product, that strategy, the little things you can do to make that product or that service really be something your customers need or want. You need to make them think they need it. If they want it, you need to make them think they need it. If they need it, you really need to, if it's a product that they actually need. You know, there's all kinds of the stuff we need, right? We need food. We can't survive without food. So if we really need something, you can't just say, put emphasis on that product because we already need it. We already know we need it. It's something that is required. We have to have it. So you have to turn that need into a what? A want. Absolutely. So it's kind of the opposite. It's something we already have to have, something we need, truly need. It needs to be turned into a want. And if it's something we want, it needs to be turned into a need. Absolutely. There it is. It's that simple, and it can actually be done way more simpler than what most people think, because it's really the subtle things. Those are the things that speak to our subconscious. And our subconscious controls way more of our decision making than most of us realize. Because it's our subconscious that are pushing those little thoughts of, you need that. You need that. Your buddies will be really jealous if you show up with that next time. You need that. All kinds of, our subconscious is responsible for those kind of things because it picks that stuff up from the stuff we read, the stuff we see, the stuff we hear. It picks up all that stuff. So let's talk a little bit about the experience, the actual user experience. It's the process of development and improvement of quality interaction between a user and all facets of a company. We actually went through all of this. Well, not quite all of it. We're right here. Okay, so what does that mean? The interaction between the user and all facets of the company. Well, the reality is you're making an ad, right? And you're placing it on that company's website. It's self-promotional for some product or service they're selling. So would it be a good idea to put something in that ad that could be seen as politically incorrect, offensive, that makes the company look bad, basically says they're no good? You wouldn't want to do anything like that, right? Because that reflects on the company, right? And we are all very aware that all it takes is one little thing and suddenly people start boycotting, right? We've all seen it happen. We've seen it happen to Walmart. We've seen it happen to Target. We've seen it happen to Toys R Us. It's happened to all kinds of companies. So you want to make sure you don't do anything. And that's what that's talking about right there. It's all facets of the company, because if it's even just something bad about that one product, it doesn't matter. That product, even though the company didn't make the product, even though they're not responsible for the product, they're just selling that product, it is a reflection on them because that ad is on their website. The gateway, absolutely. It's a gateway. That ad is a gateway to the company, and therefore you need to protect that gateway. Does that mean mistakes don't happen? Absolutely, they happen every day. Hence the reason we have so many companies being boycotted all the time. And some of the stuff I'm looking at going, oh, okay, people, it was just an innocent mistake. You're blowing this out of proportion. I can look at the ad and say that was just an innocent mistake. They just didn't realize it. It was done. Get over it. And then some things I'm going, oh boy, you're in trouble. But the reality is as designers, we can look at that and understand, okay, that probably really wasn't the company's fault. It was the designer. Yeah, the company failed to proof that as well as they should have. But the reality is it always comes back to the designer. Well, why the general public may not realize those things, guys, I can guarantee you the corporate world realizes those things. And therefore, you get kind of blacklisted. Be sure you're proofing your stuff yourself and that you're not accidentally, inadvertently, innocently doing something that could be perceived negatively by someone else. Sometimes that is a very, very fine line to walk. So anytime that you feel like you may be close to that line, it's always important that you kind of point that out to your customer and let them at that point make the judgment call. It keeps you from being blacklisted because you brought it to the forefront, made sure they were aware that there was a fine line here, this could be portrayed as this, that sort of thing. And it will keep them from blacklisting you because you did point it out. They made the decision to use it. Now it's on them. Make sense? Most of you probably haven't thought about things like that yet, but eventually it will be a very big thing, and you're going to want to make sure you think about those things because it is very easy to innocently do something that you didn't actually mean to do. It just kind of happened and you don't realize it until it's way too late because you've already posted it on social media somewhere, or you've already sent it to the customer and they already read it in that magazine ad. It's easy. At some point you will all probably make some sort of mistake like that. Some of them will get pointed out and some of them will fly under the radar. Be thankful for the ones that fly under the radar. And pray that you are never one of the ones that get boycotted. I would hate to be one of those designers. But those mistakes are easy to make. At some point, you're all going to make them. I've made them. Just something innocently, inadvertently. It wasn't something intentional. Didn't even realize it was there. Or it could look like that. There was a couple years ago, there was a big thing about pictures being arranged in a certain way that the white space made certain shapes, things like that. You guys remember that? Coca-Cola at the time had a big thing about that. And it wasn't something, most likely it wasn't something intentional. It was something that was very unintentional, something very innocent. It just happened to be the way the things were arranged on the paper, and the designer at the time didn't look at the white space. It just didn't register. Why? Because we look at that artboard the entire time we're working on it. It just didn't register that shape was there. It was probably something absolutely innocent, and it got blown into this big ordeal. Things like that happen. And it's nothing more than an innocent, it just happens. All I can say is be sure you proof your stuff. Make sure you take a break from your computer, walk away, come back and proof it again before you send it to the customer. That way you kind of cleared your brain fog there and you're really looking at the artboard. Sometimes you'll catch the stuff and sometimes you won't. Usually when you don't catch it and you are intentionally proofing it for things like that, it's going to fly under the radar, and you or a few other people you might know may notice it. Otherwise, it'll fly under the radar. Nobody will notice it. But it happens, and it happens all the time. If you really stopped and studied every single ad you got to know, you start noticing all kinds of stuff. But that all boils down to the user experience, right? The experience is your actual experience. It's how you feel when it's all done. It's how much you enjoyed the animation. How it made you feel. Kind of talking about interface here, aren't we? Wait a minute. I thought the interface was over the look and feel. Yep, it is. But it's the look and feel throughout the thing. User experience is the actual experience. And you really, once it's over is when you've had the experience, right? When you first go get a new car, it's really not an experience until it's over and you've either left the place or gotten the car, right? You've either had a really good buying experience or you've had a really bad buying experience, and we have all had them. And user experience is the exact same way. And it's basically how it all went. Were they able to use it? Did the buttons work? Did the links work? Did your message come across? Was the animation responsive? Did the music play the way it was supposed to? Did the animation freeze or did it play smoothly? All of that makes up user experience. It is responsible for being hands-on with the process, the research, the testing, the development, the content, the prototyping, the test of the quality results. All of that kind of stuff is actual user experience. It is essentially, user experience is a theory. Technically, it started as non-digital. It's a cognitive science kind of thing. How to explain it? It's used and it's defined prominently by digital, but in reality, it was initially, user experience was a cognitive science practice. Think about furniture shopping. You go to a furniture store and they have all these couches, or you go shop for a new mattress. You go to a bed store, they have all these mattresses. Well, you're kind of walking around, pushing on mattresses, sitting on couches, you know, all that kind of stuff, right? Because you need to find the one that's right for you, the one that feels right, the one that sits right, the one that's soft enough, hard enough, whatever the case may be. That is initially what user experience was talking about. When the term was invented, it was a cognitive science. It wasn't applied to digital. It was all about the non-digital. And it was all about how the experience was of sitting on that mattress, that bed, that sofa, so forth. Same kind of concept, you're just applying it digitally. So it's all about how the user feels when it's done. Was it good? Was it bad? Those are really, you've kind of got mediocre in there, I guess. But normally, when you're watching a video, it's either good or it's bad, right? If it's bad, you quit watching a long time ago. Before you even got 3 seconds in, you were done. It was bad. Or you watched it, and while you're not consciously saying, oh, that was good, sometimes you're saying, oh, that was good. Let's watch it again. But most of the time, you just watch it and you move on. Well, you watched it. Maybe you clicked on it to go look at that product or that service or whatever, but you watched it. So essentially, your experience was pretty good. And you have great experience when the customer is clicking on it and purchasing that product or service. Yeah, that's great. But there's really two ends. You've got the good, you've got the bad. If it's bad, it's no good. Something needs to be done about that ad because you're not holding your user's attention. You really can't have user experience without user interface, right? Because if you don't have user interface, can you have a good user experience? No, you can't, right? Because if the colors are bad, if the story is horrible, what kind of experience is the user going to have? Not a really good one, huh? Yeah, absolutely, it's going to be bad. So now, think about the things that we just talked about while you watch this animated ad example. Guys, tell me if you can't hear it. Occasionally, I have trouble with the sound playing in my PowerPoint. So let me know if you can't hear it.
Is it possible to love a bank? Well, it's surprising who you can build a relationship with, isn't it, dear? I mean, take BOQ, for instance. They're not like the other banks. They do more to get to know you better. They really do. So, yeah, I guess it is possible to love a bank. Her favourites.
You could hear it, but you couldn't see it. Did everybody else probably have a problem seeing it? Okay, let me open it up on my desktop then. Well, last time it was everybody could see it, they couldn't hear it. See if I can get it back up. Oh, and now it's not going to play in my browser. Come on. Come on. Okay, let's see. It is the Bank of Queenland. Give me just a second, guys. Sorry. Come on. I have a rainbow spinning deal. There we go. Okay, now let me share my screen with you. Okay. Share. Okay, can everybody see it now?
Is it possible to love a bank? Well, it's surprising who you can build a relationship with, isn't it, dear? I mean, take BOQ, for instance. They're not like the other banks. They do more to get to know you better. They really do. So, yeah, I guess it is possible to love a bank. Her favourites.
And that is the Queensland Bank ad. Now, do you guys notice how simple it was? It is very too cute, and it was very simple, right? The background was completely still and really not even all the way made, except for what? What was going on in the background? I know, Joanne. My father thinks it's hilarious too. The bird. You had that bird going on in the background. It really wasn't doing anything, was it? But it was a bird. It was back there. That is called a secondary type character, where you have something little going on in the background just because. It's kind of an attention getter, right? You've got the guy talking, and you got the deer standing behind him. You've got the shotgun over there. You've got all this stuff going on, and then you got that little bird acting crazy in the background. It keeps your attention. And the link to this video, I believe, is in the course media page too. This is a great example of 2D animation. And that's what you guys are doing, is simple 2D animation. It doesn't have to be, the graphics here are pretty simple. mean, there's nothing overwhelming about any of the graphics going on. They're basic, simple graphics. Now, I get that some of you aren't at the level to be able to create a basic, simple graphic, because I say basic, simple graphic, boy, and you're thinking, oh yeah, right, this is more complicated than that. I get it. Some of you don't have enough classes under your belt that you're at this level, but it's still, what I mean, guys, by simple is it's simple. There is no, that's a 2D character. There's no 3D going on there. It's a very simple character, simple shapes. Things aren't drawn completely. I mean, look at the pockets on his vest. All they are is outline squares, right? That's all they are. They don't really look like pockets when you really stop and look at them. His arms, they really don't look like arms, do they? They're nothing more than a tube, a stroke. He's only got 3 fingers. His nose is huge and his ears are in the wrong place. Yeah, they barely moved. These are very simple. That's what that makes the best. Think about all the 2D animation that you've seen. All those animated ads you've seen. The best ones are normally very, very simple. Are they not? It's just the way it works. Now, when you get into 3D animation, that's a whole nother subject. But we are doing 2D animation. And 95% of the time, the simpler it is, the better, because it's going to be more entertaining. So what do you think about the UX and the UI there? Did it look good? Yeah, it looked good, didn't it? How did you feel when it was over? How did it leave you feeling? Draws you in and gives you a message, so it works well. Absolutely. Laughing. How many of you thought it was funny? How many of you kind of giggled and thought it was funny? So a lot of you found it funny. How many of you thought it was cute and endearing? And this is why it won the award, because it hits so many different types of people. It had the awe factor, absolutely. It not only had the awe factor, it also had the comedy factor, didn't it? Some people find it very funny, and some people go, oh, and it's more the cuteness and the endearing, and that's what draws them in, while for others, it's just the hilarity of the whole thing. That's why it won the award. It was able to draw in 2 separate types of people into one ad and get the exact same message across. So what else stood out to you besides that? What else? The partnership, absolutely. What did it make you think? Kind of gave you the message of, that bank is truly interested in having a relationship, right? Unity, absolutely. That bank was going to be there for you. That is the whole idea. I mean, all it did was talk about the love for a bank, that you can actually love a bank. That is quite a new one, because most of the time I don't love my bank. But it works. Yeah, you can be friends. They're going to look out for you. They're going to be loyal to you. All of those types of things which make you want them to be your bank, right? Especially if you're already looking for a new bank. Can you imagine somebody seeing that ad that happens to be looking for a new bank? What are they likely to do? They're likely to switch, right? Yep, absolutely. They're signing up. They just changed banks. That's the idea of those ads. But as you just witnessed, very cute, very simple things send the biggest messages. And it can be little subtle things. What gave you the idea of the unity, the friendship, the partnership, the love? What was the one thing in that video that made you feel that way? The holding hands. There it is. How simple is that? It's pretty simple, huh? Because they really didn't do anything with their hands, did they? They stretched a few times. But other than that, they really didn't do anything with their hands. They were just holding hands. They drew some emphasis to that hand holding by that little bit of movement that it did, right? That drew us all in. When the hand swung, we all seen it in the flowers, absolutely. I mean, they played us all. I mean, that's the reality of it, guys. They played us all right into their hand. And they took us from point A to point B and made us think and feel what they wanted to. And they did it so subtly, so easily, with little bitty actions, with little bitty animations in different parts that we didn't even realize what was happening. In 30 seconds, absolutely. They did all of that in 30 seconds. All right, guys. Well, guys, we have kind of spent our 2 hours. I don't want to keep you guys any longer, so I think we will stop right here. And tomorrow, we are going to hit the week 1 overview. I will do the demo of the storyboard. And this week, doing the storyboard is really simple, guys, so don't stress out because, again, you are not doing your final graphics this week. That's all of what you're doing next week. And week 2 is when you will do your final graphics. This week, you were just going to be sketching and stuff, but we will go over and I will demo that storyboard tomorrow. And I will do the demo on the assessment because you have to make your own little creature and you have to make them fly. So we're going to go over some quick scenes and how to give something wings and make it fly. Heather, we will get into the scenes tomorrow. You won't be actually building a scene. When I say scene, guys, now in Flash, and any of those that are familiar with the old Flash, it had different scenes, quote unquote scenes, where it was a different window for each scene. If you use Canvas HTML5, which I strongly suggest you do, in week 4 it's a requirement. So if you don't start that way, you have to switch all your stuff to Canvas before you can turn in your final. That's a lot of work. I suggest you just start with Canvas. And the scenes are done a little bit differently. They're done on your timeline. So your timeline has frames. And default setting in Animate is the timeline moves at 24 frames per second. That means 24 frames will play in 1 second. So different scenes would simply be broken down on different layers. So you might have layer 1 that's say 3 seconds. So that's 72 frames. So then layer 2 doesn't start till frame 73. And that's the start of your scene 2. And Melissa, we're talking about Animate. I promise, guys, we will go over all of that tomorrow. Your template, your storyboard will be done in Illustrator. That is where your storyboard gets done. You will not be using Animate for your storyboard. Animate will come in when you're doing your assessment to make something fly. Your storyboard itself will be done in Illustrator. And it does not require final graphics, just simple sketches so that I get an idea of what your story is going to be. And we will demo that tomorrow. I promise I will walk you guys through all of this and show you how to use the template. And then I'm going to show you how to make wings flap and things like that. Don't worry, I'm not going to leave you hanging. I just don't want to keep you guys over 2 hours for our first lecture. It's a Monday night. So I don't want to keep you guys longer than that. So I will put it all into tomorrow's lecture, and we will go through the demo for the assignment, and then we will go through the demo for the assessment, and that will definitely fill up our 2 hours tomorrow. So I promise I will start talking to you guys about what Canvas HTML is and Animate and stuff like that tomorrow. So tonight, guys, start thinking about ideas for a company and kind of start playing with ideas. You don't have to settle on one yet. You're not quite there yet. You can wait to settle on an idea until after we go through the storyboard tomorrow. But you can start playing around with ideas. Get those creative juices flowing. And yes, Dwayne, same time tomorrow. I will see you guys at 4 p.m. Mountain Time. Can we make the storyboard and Animate? No, Heather, it has to be made in Illustrator this week. Now, next week, you're kind of going to be taking your storyboard with your final graphics and putting it in Animate so that it will play like an animated storyboard. We will talk more about that next week. It won't have animation on it, but it will actually play. But we'll talk more about that next week. This week, you will be making it in Illustrator. And in the end, it will help you next week to make your final graphics if you do it in Illustrator this week. Okay, guys. Well, that's it. You guys have a good evening. I am so happy you guys are all here. Again, this is supposed to be fun, guys. If you're not having fun and you're stressed out, you need to let me know. Because I want you guys to have fun, because that's when you're going to come up with the best stuff. Good night, guys.